You're listening to Faith in Action. I'm your host, Matthew Nowlin.
And I'm Shawn Graham.
We lead Conservative Christians of Tennessee, and we're thankful you're listening to this show. Conservative Christians of Tennessee exists to analyze political policy and politicians in Tennessee, and all from a conservative Christian worldview. To support us at Conservative Christians of Tennessee and our educational efforts, our public policy analysis, and just anything else that needs doing, you can give a one-time or a recurring gift at patreon.com/TNChristian. Now, we want to glorify God by helping you to glorify God, so please do not hesitate to send us any questions or comments via email. You can reach me directly by emailing Matthew at tnchristian.com.
Or Shawn, SHAWN, at tnchristian.com.
And X, even X with Elon Musk, has a lot of conservative folks like us shadow banned still. Follow me at MNBookman. Help me beat the shadow ban. See what's on my mind. Today's show is brought to you in the Memphis area by Herbie Systems. Give Herbie Systems a call at 901-290-7774 for all your lawn care needs. Since 1984, Herbie Systems has been the premier lawn care and landscape company in the Mid-South. So give Herbie Systems a call today. Do it now. That's 901-290-7774 or visit herbie-systems.com and let them kill your weeds. Our scripture for today is from Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 20. Curse not the king, no, not in thy thought, and curse not the rich in thy bedchamber, for a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. There's a camera on almost every road in America now, and they have a name that no one hated until recently, but a name that has now become devilish to some. Flock Safety Cameras. Flock and other small sensor companies scan your license plates. They log and store your location. They timestamp your movement. They estimate where you're going, and then they store it in a database that law enforcement can access anytime they want. They do other things too, probably, but Flock does this with no warrant and no suspicion. It's just continuous automated surveillance of every vehicle passing by. Isaac Botkin and others have been sounding the alarm on this, and they're right to do it. We used to laugh at the Terminator movies. Skynet, here's this machine that just watches everything. It knows everything, and ultimately it controls everything. We called that science fiction. We swore it would never happen, but then somehow we built it. If Flock had been called Skynet, we would have stopped it, but they just gave it a friendlier logo, and we called it public safety, and everybody's cool with it. Proverbs 15:3 says, "The eyes of the Lord are in every place." To the Christian, this is a comfort because he is our God. When it is the state trying to do it, well, it's tyranny at best and blasphemy at its worst. Some say the question boils down to whether these cameras make neighborhoods safer. Well, we don't think they do, but that's not the question. The important question, and what we think is the real question, is whether free people in a free republic should be tracked like cattle every time they leave their driveway. The answer is no. So we want you to contact your state legislators. We want you to demand transparency laws, data deletion requirements, and warrant protections. Don't wait. Please don't wait until this system is so entrenched that resistance feels impossible. That's exactly what Skynet was counting on. It's what Flock is counting on. And remember, we answer to God, not an algorithm. Our guest today is Isaac Botkin. He's a designer, entrepreneur. He's co-owner of T-Rex Arms, a Tennessee-based tactical gear and holster company, known for producing some of the most innovative and high-quality firearms accessories in the industry. Isaac's a passionate advocate for individual liberty and the God-given right of citizens to protect innocent life, values that are deeply woven into the mission and culture of T-Rex Arms. Today, Isaac joins us to sound the alarm on Flock Safety Cameras, a rapidly expanding network of automated license plate readers, I wish it was just that, being deployed in communities across America, and what he believes is their alarming potential to become a real-world surveillance infrastructure rivaling the fictional Skynet from the Terminator franchise. Welcome back to Faith in Action, Isaac Botkin.
Oh, thanks. It's good to be here with you guys. Good to talk to you again. It's been a little while. Some people have asked me why I've been talking about Flock cameras, because I'm a tech guy. I love cameras. I like databases. I like data. I like analyzing data. And then T-Rex Arms, we make life-saving equipment. We sell a lot of stuff to police departments. We sell training gear and we sell medical stuff to magistrates at different levels of jurisdiction. So I think I've had a number of questions like, why are you picking on this public safety technology that feels like it should be a thing that you like for folks that you support. But I've made a couple of videos about that now, and hopefully have tried to make myself clear as to just the danger of building a system that treats everybody like a potential criminal and basically treats everybody like they're guilty until they can prove they are innocent. Is really the root of it. And then there's a whole bunch of other significant security weaknesses and bad practices and good old slippery slope stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's go through that. Some of the things. So, Isaac, you just released another video on flock cameras, and it is the best video we've ever seen on the topic. And I hope it's something that our listeners will take 20 minutes to watch. And listeners, if you want to find that, just Google T-Rex Arms flock camera. That should bring that up. You might want to add YouTube to that search stream. But before we unpack the theology of this, Isaac, help our listeners understand in plain terms what flock safety cameras actually are and why you think they represent something that's more dangerous than just a new piece of law enforcement technology.
Yes. So, and this is a little bit confusing because like many technology companies, Flock has had different generations of cameras. So I believe that there was a time early on when all the camera did was read license plates. But as they've brought out new hardware and better software, the cameras are doing all the things that security cameras are expected to do. They take pictures of whatever's in front of the camera. They send that image straight through to the Flock mothership, and it gets loaded into the database. And what happens in there is a little bit fuzzy. It's obviously as a private company, they're allowed to handle the data however they want. But when they advertise various features or they advertise various services to folks, they're advertising things that go far beyond just license plate tracking. And if you go to their Twitter page, you can see that they are proclaiming successes that have nothing to do with license plates. They're talking about finding missing persons. They're talking about things that are accomplished with facial recognition. They're talking about various other tracking and recognition capabilities that have nothing to do with cars or license plates. And so some of their advertised features are recognizing cars, identifying cars without being able to see the license plate, being able to identify bumper stickers on cars. And then you can find flock cameras in the wild that are nowhere near public roadways. And so there obviously is a lot more that's being grabbed. But modern cameras, I'm a former film and television guy. I love cameras. So I love that cameras have just gotten really good at having high resolution and seeing in the dark and just capturing a lot more color detail. And so flock cameras are capturing video that lets you just gather a ton of information about whatever it is seeing. And all of that stuff goes and lives in the cloud. And then the access to that data in the cloud is kind of another issue because the permissions of who is allowed to have access to that data, and then the predictive features, the AI features that automatically highlight certain things, that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll say this, it has been an impressive evolution speed too. You know, we saw license plate readers just a few years ago being talked about, and now they're everywhere. You can't drive around Memphis without seeing entire roads that are blocked. We have an argument here that we have to make to Christians. Isaac, we need to understand that these tools are for the police. And I can understand someone who says, this is for the police. It's their cameras. You know, Romans 13 says, submit to the governing authorities. And I think a lot of believers want this to be a good godly tool. What do you say to them if we're concerned about the infrastructure like this? What's the argument here?
Yeah, so I completely agree. The magistrate has a very important job. It's so important that he carries the sword, Romans tells us. Deuteronomy has a lot of descriptions for the responsibilities of the magistrate. But there's also due process that is in there. How many witnesses it takes to accuse someone of a crime, how you actually go about convicting someone of a crime, and then how the penalties are applied. And you can see that the magistrate has a very important job, but the community is also involved in that. So what you end up with is a tool that's really good for watching an entire population and maybe not so good at solving actual individual crimes, because you end up, in order to keep your data clean and actionable, it may not be very good at picking out outliers. It may be good at only picking up people that establish what they call that pattern of life because they're in the data a lot. So I'm sure that there are crimes that are being caught by these cameras because there are about 120,000 of them in the States now. And there are crimes that are being seen by these cameras because they're in public places and they're looking at certain areas. But you can also start to see a little bit of targeting that is happening. A friend of mine sent me a very interesting observation. There's a website called deflock.org that maps where they all are and advocates that they be taken down. And he took that data where they're located, and then he loaded up the ATF's FFL database of all the addresses of gun stores that have federal firearms licenses. And he noticed there are a lot of flock cameras pointed at the parking lots of gun stores. The customers of gun stores are being disproportionately surveilled and their movements being tracked. So you can see how this data could be very easily misused. And you can see how this sort of targeted surveillance could happen, where somebody, a politician, for example, a bureaucrat most likely, decides that gun stores are a high crime threat area, which is not the case. They're actually very low crime areas. The banking industry decided this too many years ago. They decided that firearm sales are a high-risk online activity. They actually aren't, because all of the rigmarole that you have to go through to buy a gun and pass background checks and have it physically shipped to an FFL that you go physically pick it up from, it's actually one of the lowest risk online transactions that there is. But it got classified this way. And so somebody has classified the parking lots of private gun stores as a high surveillance need opportunity. I'm not sure what the official insider lingo is, but these are safety cameras, and part of the pitch is they're supposed to lower crime.
It's called a WDL, Isaac, which stands for we don't like them.
Yeah. You know, they probably have those forms. So this is you know, they're selling safety, they're selling lower crime, this is the lingo, this is the pitch, this is the business proposition for Flock. So the assumption would be if they're disproportionately putting these cameras here, then these gun stores they assume are unsafe or high crime areas, and they're making that assumption and just watching the customers of these gun stores. So that's one way that it could be misused. The other scandal that happens a lot, there are many reports of this, is because everybody is in the database, there is a lot of misuse of the data. There have been a lot of law enforcement officers that have used this database improperly to track women, sometimes people that they have relationships with, sometimes people that they don't. A lot of people have been dismissed because of this. There have been charges over this. It just opens up an opportunity to do a lot of privacy violating snooping that has nothing to do with solving crimes that have been committed or preventing crimes, just because the capability exists. So yeah, that is well documented at this point.
Yeah, in your well done video, you mentioned, Isaac, that in the past they had caught law enforcement because there were logs of what they were looking at. And in order to, my take was, based off of what you said, was that in order to remove that abuse, they simply stopped logging police access. So now we have no way to know what those officers are doing. Moving on, you mentioned these cameras don't just photograph criminals. They build a database of ordinary lawful movements of citizens, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Like you said at the gun store. I'm guessing they don't have one at the boat ramp, so it will not record me deleting my firearm possession when I...
Oh, that terrible boat accident that I heard about. Yes.
But what does that look like? And why is a database of where people go, where they worship, what grocery store they go to, what gun store they go to, who they associate with, why is this a different kind of power than what we've ever held before?
Well, one thing that is a little different is it does provide the opportunity for misuse. But the other is it provides an opportunity for a kind of laziness that we see with AI. AI is a very powerful tool, but AI cannot be fully trusted. It's a great tool if you verify everything that you do with it. But once you have AI-powered crime-fighting tools, people will have the tendency to lean more heavily on recommendations from the machines, and that can be a bit of an issue. probably doesn't take a lot of imagination to see how that can be an issue. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence that probably appears, let's say, and this is statistically unlikely, but let's say that law-abiding customers that can pass background checks from a specific gun store do in fact commit a crime. Now, statistically, they're less likely to commit crimes than the general population. And if they have a concealed carry permit, statistically, they're less likely to commit crimes than law enforcement officers are. But let's say that there was a crime, a high-profile crime, and people took that one guy that did that one thing with that legally purchased gun, and they created a profile. Well, I fall into that profile if I've been to that gun store. But the other thing that happens is once you build these data collection tools and you build powerful AI algorithms to do complex joins of data and stuff like that, is you let the machine do a lot of guessing. So maybe I get added to that bucket even though I've never been to that gun store. The LA Police Department is stopping their contract with flock cameras. I think it's this week. It's definitely this month. And their reason was their false positive rate was over 30%. So when it came to trying to find stolen cars, which a license plate reader would theoretically be great at, they were getting false positives almost a third of the time. So they were hunting down non-stolen cars based on either AI hallucinations or out-of-date data, or something was causing this massive waste of their time, but also huge violations of people's assumption of innocence when a third of the people that you accuse of stealing a car or you chase down and block off highways, and there's examples of this, and they come out guns drawn on somebody who is the legal owner of their car, which has not been stolen. That is a problem on a whole bunch of different levels.
Yeah. I just saw a video of that where a man and his girlfriend were arrested because it basically jumbled the last three digits of a license plate. And of course, that anytime there's a contact with police, there's the threat of violence. Like it's a violent encounter by its nature. Well, listeners, it's always our privilege to remind you about the mission of equipping the persecuted. This group has been on the ground for years now doing the Lord's work to save our fellow believers and rescue orphans. The persecuted Christians in Nigeria need food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and help building a safer way of life. Your monthly donation creates sustainable help for real Christians that have been attacked by brutal Muslim jihadists. Please visit equippingthepersecuted.org today. You can sponsor an orphan, a Christian child with dead Christian parents, for just $35 a month, or now you can order African coffee and have it shipped straight to your home. Every bag of Equipping the Persecuted coffee that you purchase does more than just fill your cup. That purchase is going to strengthen the body of Christ, since 100% of those proceeds are going to go directly to support persecuted Christians in Nigeria. They have great flavors you can try today. Again, that website is equippingthepersecuted.org, and the persecuted Christians in Nigeria. Thank you. We're back with Isaac Botkin. So, Isaac, at what point does a Christian community have the right, and not just the right, but the responsibility to say no and actively resist the expansion of something like this?
Yes, so obviously Christians have the right to speak up against tyranny, misuses of power, things that threaten their neighbors. Our requirement to love our neighbors requires that we speak up for them and we call out dangers to them. So one of the things that is happening right now is a bunch of people are going around and they're cutting down flock cameras. Now this is counterproductive at best. I actually have kind of mixed feelings. I am opposed to the destruction of private property, but one of the things that Flock Camera, for Flock Safety, the company, does with their contracts is they kind of try to have their cake and eat it too, where these cameras are their property and the municipality or Home Depot or whoever has the contract for installing them doesn't technically own these things. But then Flock also absolves all responsibility and tries to put it on the property owner. So you could make the argument that you're allowed to cut them down because your tax dollars pay for it and nobody actually claims these things once they're on poles. But it's counterproductive to just attack the cameras for two reasons. One, when you cut it down, Flock Safety gets to sell a new camera, which your tax dollars keep paying for. They get to make the argument that crime has risen in an area and it needs more cameras. Like, it's very counterproductive on this sense. They get a cut, the installation company gets a cut, the Chinese factory that makes the cameras get a cut. It all comes out of your paycheck eventually. So that is not the best way to attack these. But the other reason is I feel like the cameras are just the beginning, because now that they have several years of training data and they're starting to detect the Bluetooth signature from your phone, the Wi-Fi signature from your phone, your smartwatch, your earbuds, whatever other digital signal you emit is just as good at tracking you as cameras are. And in many ways, it's better for them and it's worse for you. If there's a false positive and they got the number of my license plate wrong, theoretically, we could pull the camera images and prove that it wasn't me. But if all they detected was a Wi-Fi signal that matches my phone, it's much harder for me to prove that that wasn't my phone. And so as people attack cameras, and Flock Safety has the ability to say, well, we've heard you. We're a public safety company. We've listened to the public. No more cameras, only invisible data sniffing devices that guess about people's activities. And there is no actual hard data to go back and determine what the false positive rate on our AI-powered guesses are. We kind of get ourselves into trap there. So I think it's important that we attack the bigger issue, which are the databases, the complete lack of accountability over these things, even just the accountability of, like, when these are installed on poles, they're usually installed improperly. If a private company installed them, that private company would be accountable. If the county installs it, like all the road signage, they would be accountable. But somehow, flock cameras usually fall into this weird gray area where there isn't accountability for the physical installation, and that doesn't bode well for the accountability for the data or the inferences and assumptions and conclusions that the AI bots will come to inside of their opaque black boxes. So attacking the general principle of policing by mass statistical guessing and pre-crime, that needs to be the thing. And applying the Fourth Amendment and the protections that we have under the Fourth Amendment to our data, not just our documents that we own, that we have, but to our digital data and our digital footprint. I think that's really important. So these are things that we really need to lobby for at the state level, I would say. And I think there should be lawsuits, and those lawsuits will probably eventually go to the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, we should certainly be going to our local councils, we should be going to our sheriffs, we should be going to whoever is installing the municipal level ones to fight against those cameras and have those removed, while still attacking the general principle of this large bulk surveillance. This assumption that if we watch people enough, crime will go down and we'll be able to stabilize things. If the government just had a little bit more power, then they could fix everything.
Yeah. We're advocates for the death penalty on this show.
Yeah.
And you made the point that so many people that could theoretically be caught by flock cameras are in and out of the criminal justice system, just back and forth. We're just pretending that this is a crime-solving tool when we're not willing to punish people for committing crime, are we not?
Yes, so that's another aspect to this. Some of the biggest fans of flock cameras, some of the loudest advocates talk about the need for solving crime, the need for catching bad guys. We let so many bad guys go in our current legal system that the system, if you want to lump it into a system, it's obvious that the specific jurisdictions, specific prosecutors are not serious about stopping crime, and they're not serious about punishing criminals. And the law enforcement guys, I've talked to a lot of law enforcement guys, they don't like flock because they're already catching bad guys. They catch bad guys over and over and over again and have them released. So another computer that they have to sit behind is not actually going to help them do their jobs or help them accomplish the mission that they're already doing with their job. So this is a really key issue that I think that we need to not let go. We're already failing in so many different areas in our legal system that more tools, more enhancements, making more things a crime doesn't solve the fact that we have real actual crimes, real actual victims going unpunished when we've already caught the guy, and sometimes we've caught him 20 or 30 times.
Yeah. Well, Isaac, you've given our listeners a lot to pray over today, a lot to act on. Hopefully, our listeners will again, guys, go to your search engine, type in T-Rex arms, flock cameras, YouTube. Please go find this video and watch it. Share it with your friends. But Isaac, Where besides that can they find your work, follow your research, and stay connected with you online?
T-Rex Arms, pretty easy to find, trex-arms.com. And we make, our mission is we want to make the best gear. We want to make the best life-saving gear, the best holsters, the best plate carriers. We carry the best body armor, everything up to night vision and helmets and things like that. So that is our goal. Our goal is to equip people to take on the responsibilities that are their own. And whether that's magistrates or citizens, we want to make sure that they have the best gear and the best education.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you again, Isaac Botkin, for joining us today. Isaac Botkin of T-Rex Arms and T-Rex Labs. Listeners, we love you stopping by each week to stay informed with us on these issues as they relate to our churches, our families, our state, and our nation. Remember that on tnchristian.com, we have links to past shows and articles about current events affecting Tennessee and the entire nation. If you want to support our work, again, be sure to visit patreon.com/tnchristian. And until next week, remember, you could cut a flock camera down tomorrow. They might pop it back up, but the Lord shall reign forever and ever.